Stop what you're doing for a second. What if I told you a major tech CEO just went on record saying that in about 10 years, you and I, well, we're going to be like Goldfish? It sounds completely nuts, right? Like something out of a movie. But this wasn't just a random thought. It was a warning delivered directly to a world leader. So yeah, let's unpack this.
And there it is, the bombshell quote. On December 5th, Masayoshi Son, he's the CEO of SoftBank, a huge player in AI investing, met with the president of South Korea and just laid it out there. We will become fish. And he didn't mean it metaphorically, like in some business deal. He meant it in a very real intellectual way. He was talking about a completely new kind of intelligence that's on its way.
And the thing at the center of all this is what's called artificial superintelligence, or ASI. Now, you've probably heard of AGI, right? Artificial General Intelligence. That's AI that can match a human. But ASI, that's a whole different league. We're not talking about something that's just a little smarter than us. We're talking about an intelligence so far beyond ours, it's hard to even wrap your head around.
So to even try to explain it, Son used this pretty powerful analogy. Think about the massive intelligence gap between a person and a goldfish. We can compose music, we can figure out complex math, we could build rockets. A goldfish, well, it swims around and looks for food flakes. That gigantic, uncrossable gap is where he starts his whole argument.
But here's where it gets really wild. Son didn't just talk in vague ideas. He put an actual number on it. He said the gap between ASI and a human will be 10,000 times wider than the gap that already exists between us and a goldfish. I mean, just think about that for a second. 10,000 times.
So in this new world he's describing, the roles are completely flipped. The ASI becomes the new human in the room, and we become the new goldfish. All of our greatest accomplishments, our art, our science, our philosophy, to a mind that advanced, it might as well just be bubbles in a fishbowl.
Now, this is a really crucial point he made. This isn't just about better software or feeding an AI more data. He says the difference is in the actual hardware of the brain. You can't teach a goldfish calculus, not because it didn't have a good enough teacher, but because its brain physically can't do it. He's saying the same thing will be true for us when we try to understand an ASI.
Okay, so hearing all that, your brain probably jumps to one immediate and pretty terrifying question. Should we be worried? I mean, if we're about to be so completely outsmarted, is this an existential threat? Are we looking at a future where we're controlled or worse?
But here's where Son's prediction takes a really strange, maybe even unsettling turn. He doesn't think it's a threat at all. In fact, he was actually reassuring. He thinks our relationship with ASI will be like the one we have with our pets. We love them, we take care of them, we keep them safe.
And his reasoning for why it'll all be peaceful is kind of unique. He literally told the president of South Korea not to worry because, and I quote, "Asia does not eat protein. They don't need to eat us," which is, I guess, a very practical, if slightly chilling reason to feel safe.
So if you break down his vision, it looks something like this. First, we have to get over ourselves and accept we're not the smartest kids on the block anymore. Second, ASI pretty much takes over, providing for us, guiding things. And third, we just kick back and enjoy a peaceful life as the pampered pets of a superintelligence.
And I have to keep stressing this. This wasn't some guy just spitballing ideas at a tech conference. He said all of this in a formal, high-stakes meeting with the president of South Korea while they were discussing the entire nation's future strategy. And believe me, South Korea is taking AI extremely seriously. They're trying to become one of the top 3 AI powers on the entire planet. They're pouring billions of dollars into it. So when a guy like Masayoshi Son talks, they listen very, very closely. And it wasn't just talk either. Real things came out of this meeting. They announced a new initiative called the ARM School. It's a partnership between the government and ARM, which, remember, is 90% owned by Son's company, to train almost 1,500 elite chip designers. They're literally building the foundation for this AI future. But even though they made a deal, they definitely weren't on the same page philosophically. You had Son, who was super optimistic, even saying that ASI could one day win a Nobel Prize. And then you had President Lee, who was a lot more direct. He admitted he was a bit concerned and flat out said, "I do not believe this is a desirable situation." And that Nobel Prize comment had some extra sting to it. Why? Because the person who had won that same prize for literature the year before was a celebrated author from South Korea. So for Son to suggest, in that room, that a machine could reach that same peak of human creativity, well, that's a pretty bold and ironic thing to say. So the big question is, how fast could this all happen? Right now, we're all talking about AGI, human-level AI. But Son thinks ASI could be here by around 2035. That's really not that far away. And then, sometime after that, well, we enter the fishbowl. Which brings us to the final, unavoidable question that this whole prediction forces us to ask. If this future happens, a life where all our needs are met, where we are perfectly cared for, but our purpose, our work, our creativity becomes meaningless, is that a utopia? Or is it just a comfortable way of becoming obsolete? Are you okay with being a happy, well-fed pet in a digital aquarium? That's the question we all might have to start thinking about, and soon.